This might be one of the most important and one of the most valuable videos I've done. I'm Charlie Lambden. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, where I use my 25, 30 years of experience within and behind the scenes of the property market to share with you, the home mover, how to move home without being chewed up and spat out by the sharks who are out to get you, and how to just actually get the transaction to happen in the first place, let alone do it without being ripped off and without overpaying. And what I'm about to tell you, I'm going to be talking kind of towards buyers, but actually the same is true of sellers. And I'm here to help everyone achieve the same thing, which is a smooth home transaction at fair market value. This video is not about how to get one over on the other side. This video is not about how to get things at an undervalue or how to sell your property at an overvalue, because all of that is why so many people have such a terrible experience. And if people who just need and want to move house, and that's who I'm here for, you just need to move. So fair market value is the best way to get your move to happen. For example, if you're a seller who accepts an offer that you extracted because your agent managed to get some buyer to bid way over the top because they fear of missing out, and it's well above fair market value, then the chances of that buyer pulling out are much, much higher. And I've seen that all the time. So many sellers basically getting a price too high, and then the buyers pull out, and you wish, actually, God, maybe I should have just accepted fair market value and I've had a better chance of getting through. Similarly with buyers, if you end up offering too cheap and the seller accepts it, you are at risk of being gazumped, because if fair market value is higher than you've offered and been accepted, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying you're at a higher risk of it happening. And so therefore, everything I do and say and advise on this channel is about fair market value being achieved, whether you're a buyer or a seller, because that way more transactions are achieved, and the more transactions there are, the easier it is to move house, and the easier it is to move house, the easier it is to get on with your life, and the better it is for society and the country as a whole. Now, it's an inalienable, inescapable fact that people who negotiate all day, every day for a living are going to be better at doing it than you if you don't negotiate for a living. And the first thing you've got to do is be honest with yourself. And if you're someone who goes into this thinking, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, and you've got no experience at all, and you're up against an industry of people with experience, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. And that is why the title of this video is How to Negotiate Without Negotiating. And what I want to teach you or share with you is an approach to buying your home that basically allows you to avoid negotiations completely and allows you to retain control of the process and not be swept up by an industry that spends its life negotiating and which out negotiates you and ends up putting you at a disadvantage. Okay, so I'm going to try and do this in about 10 to 15 minutes total. I've already been rambling for 4 minutes. You're going to need 3 things. Okay, you're going to need, number 1, preparation, and that is within the scope of possibility for everyone and anyone. You've got to be prepared. Okay, you've got to be as prepared as you can be, not just for the obvious reasons, but actually because when you come to making the offer on the home that you want to buy, the more prepared you are, the better the chance of your offer being accepted. That is just an inalienable and also an undisputable fact. So preparation, but there's a long list of things you need to be prepared about, or a long list of ways in which you need to be prepared, number 1. Number 2, you're going to need patience. You're going to need patience. And if you don't manage to achieve patience, you can expect to lose out. You can expect to overpay. You can expect to be overcharged. You can expect to not end up in the best possible outcome if you don't have patience. It's frustrating to hear that, but I'm telling you, if you do achieve the acquisition of patience as a skill, and it's just a simple decision. It's a state of mind, right? Um, if you do achieve that, you will not be overcharged, you will not overpay, and you will not get out negotiated. Patience, number two. So preparation, number one, patience, number two. And number three is there is always a little bit of luck involved. And the luck is involved with the factors that are outside your control. For example, what is the counterparty's situation? That is something you cannot control. And different properties will have different sellers in different stages of life and with different motivations. And with some, you'll get lucky, and in others that you won't. But luck favors the prepared. That is also true. Let me give you an example. If you are lucky enough to be looking to buy a property where the seller is under extreme pressure to sell, if your offer is better prepared by way of having your finances in place and everything you could possibly have prepared, you're going to be the lucky one that gets your offer accepted if you are up against other competing buyers. All right? And that is where luck favors the prepared. So the way to negotiate without negotiating is to be better prepared than other people you are competing with to buy these homes. If you're lazy, you're going to end up spending more or missing out on homes. If you can be asked to get off your arse and be prepared, you massively improve your chances of being lucky. And actually, you could then argue, well, it wasn't luck, it was just preparation. But the point is that there are things outside your control. For example, again, as a buyer, if you find a home you particularly want to buy, you have no control over whether the agent selling it is a good agent, an average agent, or a bad agent, an honest agent or a dishonest agent. You have no control over that. And again, being better prepared will put you in better stead to avoid having to negotiate with that agent. Okay, so preparation you'll need, patience you will need, I'll come on to that in a minute, and a little bit of luck. But if you're prepared and patient, you're going to get luckier anyway. Okay, I now want to talk for just a minute about, I don't know if any of you have read The Art of War or know the 3 basic rules of the Art of War, which from memory, and forgive me if I get this slightly wrong, but the way I've remembered it is, number 1, in any conflict, and negotiation is conflict. That's what you got to understand, right? And that is why negotiation is something worth avoiding. It is a state of conflict, effectively. All right. And if you lose, it's bad and the other person wins. But if it's fair market value, then it's a win-win. Okay. And that's why I think avoiding negotiation is better where you can. All estate agents, and this is true for buyers and sellers. Okay. So if you're a seller watching this, you also need to be prepared because you're going to be negotiating with your agent based on which agent you choose and their fee and how much service they're going to give you, that kind of stuff, right? All estate agents are trained that you are always negotiating. You are never not negotiating. Every single conversation you have with every buyer and every seller is part of a negotiation. That is why their employees are called negotiators. It's on their business cards for some of them. It's their actual official job title. They are negotiators. And that's why I'm wearing this t-shirt for this video. And that's why I say disregard the guff, because everything that comes out of their mouth is negotiation. Now, some of it may be true, and it's a mistake to automatically assume that everything they're saying is lying. That is a mistake, because if you're dealing with an honest agent, you will disadvantage yourself if you wrongly assume that they are lying, okay? And that's why I like the phrase guff. It's a slightly better description and explanation of what they're doing, because guff can contain some truth. It's just the way it's framed. But remember this is the point. They are always negotiating. And by that I mean, if you are a buyer, they are always mentally preparing you to offer and to offer more. Always. at all times, without exception. That is what they're doing. If you ask an agent a question, the answer that comes out of their mouth will be part of their job to negotiate the best price on the house that you're looking at. So this is why it's better to go in equipped and armed and prepared to just actually not engage with a negotiation. And if you are prepared, you are actually armed to be able to disregard the guff, because it just becomes irrelevant. It doesn't matter what they say. It literally doesn't matter what they say. If you are prepared as a buyer, you can ignore everything the agent's telling you, because all you want them to do is to show you the property. That's all you want them to do. And you may want them to answer some questions about the property, but they're factual questions. And if you don't get a factual answer, assume it's guff, okay? Because an honest answer from an agent, if they don't know the factual answer to your question, is, I will find out the answer to that question and get back to you, okay? So it's extremely frustrating for an agent to deal with a well-prepared buyer that simply disregards their guff. It's frustrating because if you are a proper, qualified, prepared, and proceedable buyer, which, by the way, being prepared means you are a proceedable buyer, then they can't just dismiss you. Right? They go, oh, I got this person. And you can be polite, and you can be friendly, and you can smile, and you can ignore everything they say. And if you can do that, you are already out negotiating them. Does that make sense? So keep your eyes on the prize. Your eyes on the prize is that you end up buying a home that doesn't have structural problems at a price that means you haven't overpaid for your circumstances, perhaps using a finance product, a mortgage, that also is a product that are on terms that suit you, not the person that sold it to you. That's your objective, to get into a home that you want to live in without overpaying, and without buying something that you later find out is riddled with problems that you didn't know it had. Okay? And this is again why you need to be patient, because even if you get your offer accepted on a home that you love, there may yet be reasons that you need to walk away from it. And this is another reason why you've got to be patient. Okay? Now, all right, you might be watching this going, all right, Charlie, this is all guff. Get to the point, get to the nitty gritty. How do we get them to accept a price that we want to pay, and how do we make sure that we don't get talked into overpaying? Right. If you follow my golden rule of deciding what your maximum comfortable price for that home is, which very few of you seem capable of doing, and the ones of you who can do it are succeeding, the ones of you that are struggling or deciding to disregard that piece of advice, you guys are ending up with less success, and you are ending up overpaying. Because if you don't follow this advice, you will unavoidably end up in a negotiation which you are likely to lose. Oh, no one's going to out-negotiate me. I don't want them to. Listen, it's all mind games and tricks. And these are tricks that are as old as the hills. And if you haven't been trained in the tricks, and you're up against someone who has been trained in the tricks, as I have, I remember as a teenager going for a job where I got sales training, you're going to lose more often than not. And it's deeply foolish to assume that you're too clever to be outmaneuvered by someone who's been trained in something that you haven't been trained in. So the way to get the property for the price you want is to make sure that you have taken as long as you need to decide what that price is. The price above which you will not go. Might you get the property for less than that price? Possibly. But by offering less than that price, you also increase the risk that you will lose the home, or end up in a negotiation that you end up losing and end up paying more than your maximum comfortable price for. And given that the end objective is to be in a home at a price you're comfortable paying, the fastest way to get there is to make sure you know what that price is. And that's something which requires preparation and research and viewing, and lots of viewing. And that's why I say get out and view, get out and view, get out and view. Then you will know what the fair market price is for a property. Okay? And if you know what that maximum comfortable price for you in your circumstances, your time in life, your career situation, your family situation, all of those things. If you know what the maximum comfortable price for you is, and that's the price above which you will walk away, because you are prepared to walk away, because that's one of the preparations, right, is being prepared to walk away, then you make your offer in writing, and your offer is fully prepared because you've got your mortgage in principle, your proof of funds, and you're ready to offer your property search pack. Come back to that in a minute. And you put forward an offer at your maximum comfortable price that is the best quality offer the seller receives, if they are indeed receiving other offers or not, you don't know. Then it doesn't matter whether you are the only offer or whether you are up against other buyers. It doesn't matter, because you're not competing against the other buyers on price. You are competing against them on being better prepared. Now, being better prepared as a buyer costs you nothing extra except for the time it takes to get those things lined up, which you will have to do anyway if you end up successfully buying, right? So the time you have to spend getting your mortgage offer, the time you have to spend getting a conveyancer, the money you have to spend buying a property search pack are all things you will have no choice but to do if you're going to buy that property with a mortgage anyway. If you can be asked to get these things prepared before you make your offer, guess what? Your offer is more valuable to a seller than another offer of the same amount. Why? Because it has a higher degree of certainty of completion. This sounds obvious, but 90% of buyers don't do it. And to me, that is profoundly foolish, because these are things you've got to do anyway. And if you don't do them yourself before you start viewing, if you don't get your mortgage in principle before you start viewing, you're more likely to be sucked into a bad broker in-house by an agent and end up being given bad mortgage advice, number one. If you don't have a conveyancer chosen before you make your offer, you're more likely to be sucked into overpaying for a bad conveyancer than the estate agent makes you have, which increases the likelihood of your offer falling through later anyway. So it makes no sense not to be prepared when you make your offer. It costs you nothing extra. I cannot overstate that. And if it costs you nothing extra, and if it increases the chance of your offer being accepted, why wouldn't you do it? Why? Please tell me, help me understand why you wouldn't actually go out and get your mortgage offer in principle first and your conveyancer lined up first and know that you're going to have your property search pack ready to purchase if your offer is accepted. Again, more on that in a minute. Why wouldn't you do those things if it is actually increasing the chances of your offer being accepted at no additional cost to you? It makes no sense not to do this. Your offer is more valuable with those things prepared than someone else's offer where they haven't done it, because it means that their offer is going to take more time. And the more time it takes, the bigger the chance of fall-throughs. It also shows that you are more committed and more serious and you're more knowledgeable of the process. And it puts you in a stronger negotiating position to get the price that you want. Because, and this is where if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of negotiation skills and tactics, one of the phrases you should look up and research is items of unequal value. Items of unequal value in a negotiation, right? An item which costs nothing to one person but is valuable to the other person. For example, having all of your things lined up so that you can transact in 28 days rather than 3 months is valuable to a seller because it allows them to move on more quickly, or it allows them to get their house sold before more uncertainty comes along, or before the market falls further, or whatever it might be. So being prepared and having the things that you are going to need anyway prepared up front are items of unequal value. They cost you nothing extra to get them prepared up front, but they are more valuable to the seller. So not doing it once you've heard me say this, if you know, the only people who should be doing this are people who just haven't heard me say this and don't understand, right? But if you've heard me say this and you go out and make an offer without your stuff already lined up, don't be surprised if your offer gets rejected. Don't be surprised if you get sucked into a negotiation that you end up losing. This is completely free advice, free, impartial advice, advising you to do something that costs you nothing extra, okay? And most importantly of all, it means that you stay out of negotiations. Because when you put your offer forward at your first and final price, because you've worked out what your maximum comfortable price is, that's what you're offering, you won't go above it, okay? It's a simple yes or no. And this is where the patience comes in at the end. You put your offer in writing, with everything attached that the agent needs to be able to turn around to the seller and go, well, this is a gold-plated offer. And you wait. And that's it. You just wait. And that's where the patience comes in. And the reason that you wait is this, because what happens a lot is people put their offer in and you are beside yourselves with excitement waiting for the answer from the seller, because this has taken a year to get to this point for some people, right? And you put the offer in and like, I put the offer in 30 seconds ago and they haven't called me back. What's going on? What's going on? And this is where you are a complete rookie as a negotiator. Patience. This is why you need patience, because you make your offer and you walk away. You almost assume that it's a no. The mindset needs to be, I'm putting my offer forward. They're probably going to reject it. And that's okay. We'll just move on and find somewhere else. And that's the mindset you need. Because if you ring up after 1 or 2 days going, what's the answer? What's the answer? What's the answer? You are revealing a weakness that is likely in the hands of a skilled estate agent to result in you on that phone call offering more. But if they don't hear from you after 7 days, roughly, I mean, give or take, right? They're more likely to come back, because any good estate agent will say to the seller, never go back within 48 hours, because if they really want it, they're really keen, they won't be able to contain themselves, and they're just going to ring up and chase and ring up and chase. And once they reveal that they're that keen, we'll be able to get more out of them. And this is what agents are paid to do for sellers. And if there is more than one of you offering on a property, this is actually the way they go about achieving fair market value for the seller. It feels horrible as a buyer, but if there are more, if you are willing to offer more, then without even being forced to do so, then that is them finding fair market value. And if you've got other people bidding against you, that's also fair market value. Okay. So you need patience. Now, where it gets more complicated is if the agent rings you up and says, look, they love how proceedable your offer is because you've got your mortgage and your solicitor and your property search pack lined up and to go. They love that, but someone else has offered more than you. To which my answer as a buyer would be, have they got all that stuff lined up? Can they exchange within 28 days subject to survey? And if the answer is no, then I would say then my offer stands as it is. Because what the agent has revealed in that phone call is that speed or certainty is of importance to the seller. Now, you can't blame them for asking the question, because if they do have another offer that's higher, but it's someone that's got to sell the house first who doesn't have their mortgage ready or doesn't have the conveyancing lined up and it's going to take longer, it's still a legitimate offer against which you are competing. And you've then got to decide, do I want to compete on money, or can you just say, I'm sorry, as it says in my offer email, that's my maximum price. I'm not going higher than that. Let me wrap up this video with a quick anecdote where I just got lucky. But what it shows is that when you stick to your price and you're prepared, you will get properties at a better price than you thought. So this is the first flat I ever bought. It was in Brighton. It was 1995 thereabouts. I think it was 95. And I had a friend who worked at Foxtons, funny enough, and he was a negotiator at Foxtons in London, and he advised me on what to do as a buyer. I was a cash buyer. It was a relatively small amount of money, because back in those days, you could buy flats in Brighton for a very small amount of money. And I found a flat. I was not in a position to get a mortgage at this point. I found a flat. My budget was limited by the funds that I had. That was it. But I had my conveyancer lined up, because the agent had told me, make sure you got your conveyancer lined up, make sure that you can demonstrate you're proceedable, and you got a better chance. And I offered the amount I could offer, which was over 30% below asking. And the agent rang me back after a few days, because my friend said, don't ring them, don't chase them, put your offer in and don't chase them. And they asked if I could go a little bit higher. And I said, actually, if I could, I would go a little bit higher. I literally actually can't. So in other words, I was empowered to negotiate to keep to my first and final offer because I literally couldn't afford another penny. And they said yes. And I got it. Now, that was more luck than preparation. And it was more luck than patience. I was right place, right time with the right seller on the right flat. That was, I did just get very lucky. But I had a bit of advice and I had a conveyancer. But the point is this, is that it proves that if you can stick to your guns and be patient, you do get that price. And that was fair market value because that property had been on the market for a long time and hadn't had any other offers. I was the market for that flat. So I'm going to wrap up by saying one more thing. There are people who still think that they're worried about putting the offer because they're worried they're going to offend the seller. When you offend someone, it doesn't harm them. It doesn't hurt them. They won't be scarred by it. They will recover. Offending people is not a nice thing to do, but often a seller won't be offended. They just might laugh your offer off if it's too low. The worst they can do is just reject your offer. But whether or not a seller might be offended is not a consideration. It's something that really shit agents use to basically manipulate you. Oh, I can't put that offer forward to the seller. They'll be terribly offended. Who gives a fuck whether they're offended or not? I'm sorry. This is a lifelong commitment. This is a 30-year mortgage I'm taking on. I'm taking a flying tuppity fuck if they're offended or not, because this is how much I can afford. And I'm offering a very large sum of money to me and a major commitment. So please spare me whether or not they're offended and just tell me whether they're going to accept it or not. That is the attitude that you should have. Perhaps not that blunt, but if an agent says to you, oh, the seller's going to be very offended, you say, well, I'm terribly sorry that they're going to be offended. I can't help that. This is the maximum I can afford to offer for that property. On that note, thank you. Gosh, I do these weekday mid-morning live streams expecting nobody to be there because it's the quickest way to get the advice out there. Oh, thank you, Annie Anonymous. Yes, the search pack, the property search pack. I said more on that later. I didn't cover it. So the property search pack is a it's a pack of information about that property which you need to get from multiple different sources. I've done videos on it. Just look up my video on property search packs, which the lenders require as a mandatory requirement before they will lend on a property. Some people say, oh, don't order the search pack until you've had the survey done because you might be wasting the money on the search pack. That's a false economy, short-sighted view. If you offer the seller the search pack at the beginning, you are speeding up the process by at least a few weeks. And the search pack is also going to indicate how much you do or don't need a survey. I think you should always get a survey. But by offering to buy the search pack on the day your offer is accepted, what you're saying to the seller is, I'm speeding up the transaction process by a number of weeks. And if there's some conveyancers don't care about speeding up the process. Bad conveyancers who go, oh, no, don't order the search pack at the start. There's no point in doing that. Just say, I'm sorry, I don't care what you think. I want to buy the search pack because it's part of my offer. I want to buy it on day one. So if your conveyancer can't order your search pack on day one, then you can get one through me on my website, mhwc.co.uk/property-pack. And all conveyancers can accept them. There is a search pack time limit. Some parts of it, I think you have to exchange within 3 months or complete within 6. So, but there's no reason why the transaction should take longer than that unless the seller's going to take longer than that. And if the seller does, then the seller should be paying for a renewed search pack if it's needed for the lender. Thank you, Annie, for reminding me to say that. So yeah, have all your ducks in a row, which is be prepared. Also be prepared to wait, be prepared to be patient, be prepared to walk away. This is the list of preparations, right? Be prepared with your research, have your research done, which means viewing lots of properties to get a feel for the market. Be prepared with your mortgage and principal from a broker that you trust. Be prepared by having your conveyancer lined up. Be prepared, then you won't have to negotiate. Guys, I've got to go. I think my lunch is on the table. Have a great one. And the next video I'm going to be doing this is going to be on how to find a mortgage broker you can trust, which is a really tricky one. Have a great day, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.